Hello, welcome to the morning show with me, Martin King.
And me, Claire Brock. He vanished without trace in 1933, and the subsequent inquest was the first in the state to be held without a body. We'll be looking at the mystery surrounding the disappearance of American professor Arthur Kingsley Porter. Next year will mark 80 years since the disappearance of Arthur Kingsley Porter, the American professor and owner of Glenveagh Castle in County Donegal.
Now, despite last being spotted at the cliffs on Inishbofin Island in Donegal, the professor's fate has always remained a mystery. Could new research have solved the mystery, though? Joining us now is author of a forthcoming book, Glenveagh Mystery, Lucy Costigan, and film producer Cliodhna Kennedy. You're both very welcome to the programme, and thank you for coming in. Lucy, tell us about Arthur. How come he came to be in Ireland?
Well, he was born in Connecticut in 1883 from a very wealthy family. His father was a successful banker, unlike many bankers now. That was a good time to be a banker. Yeah. And his mother was belonging to the Hyde family, a very influential American family. So he had quite an idyllic childhood up until the age of 8 when his mother died, and this was a huge kind of a loss for him. But it was only the beginning of a lot of tragedies that hit him in his life. Really up until the age of 18, when he kind of got this incredible windfall and became a multi-millionaire overnight. So that's kind of where the story really begins.
Mm-hmm. He invested his money wisely.
Absolutely. And
wound up deciding to buy himself a nice place in the northwest of Ireland.
Yes, well, he was an author and he also was a lecturer in Yale and in Harvard. So he had a great interest in, let's say, Romanesque architecture, and that kind of led to his interest in Celtic high crosses, which of course there's many. And they came over himself and his really his soulmate, his wife, who was also always helping him with his research. They both landed in Meath in 1928. And really from there they made their way to Donegal. And he finally discovered Glenveagh Castle, and he was absolutely smitten by the incredible beauty of the lakes and the mountains there and this enchanting castle.
And he was there for many years. So, but the disappearance and the mystery all comes from 1933, Cliodhna. Tell us a little bit about the last known movements of Arthur Kingsley Porter.
Well, because I suppose with his personality was, you know, being an author and that kind of a thing, he was not so much a recluse, but he enjoyed his own company and the freedom of solitude, but always with his wife Lucy. And one of the splendours, I suppose, of the coastline of Donegal, especially up around that neck of the woods, you know, that he felt inspired and loved nature and all things about that area. But he felt a little bit landlocked at one point, and there's an island just off the coast of Donegal, Inishbofin, and he basically went to the people who owned the island and asked if he could give them a financial, I suppose, income in order to be able to build a hut for himself and the wife to go out to the island. Again, it was another kind of a sanctuary for them, if you liked, and a kind of a back to basics. I mean, you're talking about this guy who's a multi-millionaire who owned a home in Elmwood in the States and had grandeur all around him, but he really wanted the simplistic, you know, kind of feel that Donegal gives, and in order to do this, they wanted like a very simple, basic fisherman's hut, basically, out in the island. So they spent a lot of time. They rowed out themselves, himself and the wife, in a curragh, you know, as you did back in that day, and used to spend a lot of evenings together out there, and you know, go for walks around the island and stuff like that. And you know, in and around the time of the disappearance, it was quite, they would spend a lot of time touring around Europe or whatever, but they would always try and manage to come back, you know, between terms when he was lecturing in Harvard. He would always try and get back to Glenveagh. And on this one occasion, it was one of the trips that they were there, and that they took a boat out to the island. And I mean, there was nothing untoward about that day in particular, I don't think, Lucy. I mean, they were out, they were just doing their thing. There was a little bit of bad weather. It was a bit unpredictable. They were kind of deciding whether or not they should come back because they were expecting visitors. They always had people coming to the castle. I mean, very well known, very, you know.
When did word come back that something was amiss?
Well, they had arranged that they would maybe sit out the storm, kind of a thing, and they decided to go writing, you know, just to pass the time. And one of the local men on the island who used to help them, he used to follow them in a sailboat, basically out just to kind of make sure and lived on the island. Arthur King's supporter Simi went to assist him because the tide was rising, and to help him basically just to bring the boat up into a secure position. And he had arranged then for Lucy to meet up with him afterwards so that they could leave together, or, you know, whatever the arrangement was at the time. And basically she went to find him, to head back, and there was no sign of him.
That was it?
He was gone.
Since then,
disappeared.
It wasn't as simple as just a disappearance and finding a body. There was no body found, and theories sprang up not just in Ireland but internationally. Tell us about a few of those theories, or what people were saying about what really happened to Arthur Kingsley Porter, Lucy.
Well, I suppose some people said it was suicide. They didn't actually know why they came up with this idea, but they kind of said maybe it was a kind of a thwarted love affair that he had. It didn't work out. Other people said he may have been murdered, even by locals, over a love affair. But I suppose that the theory that really circulated and kept going for decades was that this multimillionaire left the island. For why, no one really could come up with an idea. But he, for some reason, vanished and was seen all over Europe, as far away as India. And within a few days, there was actually a sighting of him on Tory Island.
Right. Oh, right. Okay.
As well, yes.
Okay. Well, many decades passed, 7 to be precise, before Thomas, this gentleman called Thomas, discovered something new. And this is what your book is based on.
Well, that's right. Well, I suppose the thing that Thomas really discovered, if you wanted to use that word, was when I was actually with Thomas and my nephew Michael. We were up in Glenveagh and we took the usual Glenveagh tour of the castle. But Thomas was really smitten by this idea of what happened to him. And knowing I was a writer, he asked me, and it was plaguing me for many years, to go and research this and write it. So finally he convinced me. We're actually in the Talbot Hotel in Wexford when he convinced me to go for it.
So you were in the southeast corner when you decided to
That's right, we're
the northwest corner.
actually in the opposite, yeah. Our minds were very focused on Donegal, but we were in Wexford. But
okay, so do you think you've solved the mystery, Lucy? Can you give us a hint as to what you think may have happened?
Well, I suppose, first of all, with my sister Therese and my nephew Michael, the three of us went to Harvard. And that's where all of his papers and all of Lucy, his wife's diaries, are actually, you know, located. And there we did find some very interesting things. Also, letters from himself and an eminent doctor in London. We also went there. We also went to, of course, Connecticut, his home state. So we did an enormous amount of research. We had literally tons and tons of sheets of paper.
So has it led you to believe that he was in fact drowned, that something else happened?
Well, that's the question.
See what I'm trying to get at? Are we going to get on? All is to be revealed, but the big thing is you've a book, and not only that, but there's a documentary, and it's made a film.
There is. I mean, when Thomas and Lucy first approached us, you know, I suppose, you know, as a credit to them, they wanted to keep everything in Donegal, and of course they ventured out and looked for a production company. I'm very fortunate to be working with Luke Films, who were based in Gweedore in Donegal. You know, and I've been living up from Dublin originally, but I'm living up there a long time, and I've built up a relationship with this production company. So when it came to, you know, to our attention, basically Louis, who's the director of the company, sent it to me and said, have a look at this, what do you think? I mean, number one, I couldn't believe that it actually, I mean, I live 15 minutes from Glenveagh, so for me to have, you know, somebody, I suppose, from the, as you say, the southeast of the country sending me a story that actually happened on my doorstep, I mean, for me, kind of shocked me that I didn't even know that this had happened. But the intrigue, the mystery, the thing that I love about this story is, you know, you're up in the wilds of Donegal. To even imagine that this type of lifestyle was in a, you know, in this little corner of this country, you know, this multi-million multi-millionaire that, you know, had extravagance at his fingertips.
It really happened across something
and
there.
then to have this mystery of him disappearing, and I mean,
all we can do is wait with interest to see what actually happened.
It'll be worth
First
it.
in November,
That's
and
right.
then we hope for the production of the documentary in 2013.
Look forward to
And
it.
of course, what we have to remember is this was the first inquest carried out in Ireland without a body.
Without a body, exactly.
So
Never any
it's
trace
always
of
a
him ever
massive
found.
national interest as well as international interest in the mid-30s.
And also there's a lot of secrets within the inquest as well, which will be revealed.
All to be revealed. Lucy, Cliodhna, thank
Roll
you
on
both
November.
very much for coming in to talk to us
Thank
today.
Thank you. Thank
Good
you.
to meet you. Okay.